This screening was Love and Basketball, and that plays as part of the BFI's wider Love series. So I've got a couple of questions about Love and Basketball as a love film, because that's what it is. So my first question is, what inspired you to make a film that was a love story? Because it's your first film that you made.
Was first. Well, foremost, thank you guys very much for coming out. The fact that this film is 15 years old and you guys came is still pretty amazing to me. Love story. Honestly, the biggest inspiration for this film was Harry Met Sally. I had loved that film. And honestly, it's very simplistic, but I thought in my head, let me write a black when Harry met Sally. But then as I started thinking about what I really wanted to say, it started getting more and more autobiographical. I played ball. My first kiss was the boy on my block, and we counted 10 seconds on our fingers. And so it just became more and more personal. So it was just about loving love stories and wanting to write something that I'd like to see. And the truth of it is that, especially back then, we rarely saw love stories with any people of color in them. And so it was also that fight to do that as well.
And can you remember the first love story that you saw on the big screen that did have people of color in it?
No, I can remember the first show, which was Different Strokes on television. I don't know if anyone ever saw that show, but that show blew my mind. You know what? Actually, She's Gotta Have It. I remember sitting in the theater, and that trailer came up, and I was shocked at the fact that I was actually looking up on screen and seeing myself reflected.
I think that's a theme that kind of continues into Beyond the Lights, which is the next film that you guys are going to see. And those films really talk to each other, I think. If you haven't seen Beyond the Lights, it would be interesting to kind of think about how it feels compared to Love and Basketball. But I want to ask you how you feel thinking about this film and talking about it and screening it 15 years after you made it. What's changed for you in those 15 years?
Wow, what's changed? I have to say, making my first film, I don't know if it'll ever be as good as that. And that it was such a perfect situation. I mean, it took forever to get it set up, and every studio turned it down. It took a year and a half to write. But once I found Spike Lee, who produced it, and then New Line Cinema, they let me cast Sanaa Lathan, who was an unknown. They gave me more money than I asked for, which was a shock. I had never directed a film before. I'm pretty sure that they thought, because Spike was a producer, if I totally messed up, that he would step in and save me. And they just left me alone and didn't come on set and let me make the film that I wanted to make. And sadly, that's kind of rare in Hollywood. But given it was my first film, I thought it was always going to be like that. So the second film I did was Disappearing Acts, and suddenly I had to answer to a bunch of suits, and it was kind of a shock. I will say the amazing thing is my budgets for each film have gone down, as opposed to going up. But it's getting harder and harder to make films in Hollywood, and especially dramas and love stories. But these are the films that I want to tell, and so it's worth the fight. But I got paid less on Beyond the Lights than I did 15 years ago for Love Basketball.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that as a culture we're less inclined towards love stories and less original love stories are being made?
I don't know if it's that we're less inclined. I think Hollywood, though, is going for, right now it is all about the big film, the superhero film, and the sequels. It was interesting because I just had a meeting at Universal Studios, and I went into their big conference room, and they had all the films that are coming out next year, and there was 1 out of 25 films that was not a sequel or a superhero film. That was pretty shocking to me. But they're going with what's working right now, and success begets success. So Universal, they even said I was pitching a drama, and they say we do 1 of these a year. So most studios are pretty much doing that 1 a year. So there's a bunch of us fighting for that 1 slot.
So do you feel like the way to deal with that is to go down a more independent route of filmmaking?
Honestly, like you get to a point where you want to make your film by any means necessary, but there's something, you work in the studio system because then you have a guarantee that it's going to get distributed. And at the end of the day, we make films for an audience, and it'd be very, very hard to make a film and not know for sure that it was going to get distributed. On the flip side, if you do it independently, you know, you're not answering to anybody. So, but right now I prefer the guarantee.
Yeah. And thinking back to Love and Basketball, one of the things I love most about this movie is the music. And it's just a great soundtrack that hasn't really aged. It still seems very timeless to me. So what kind of inspired you to choose that music? Or did you choose it? Did you write it into the script, or did you work with a music supervisor?
Yeah, I love music so much. I just remember Purple Rain when that soundtrack came out. And like you just listen to that soundtrack and you got to watch the movie in your head again. And so that's really what I try and do with the soundtracks. But I also write to music. And you know, Love and Basketball, the whole last third of the film was Lauryn Hill, X Factor on repeat. You know, just playing that over and over. So I'm always looking for those songs that make you feel. And I was very, very lucky with Love and Basketball. I mean, half of the songs, it took place when I was in college, so I just dug through my crates. You know, everyone made mixtapes back then, so, you know, all of them had Guy on there, and Keith Sweat, and Bobby Brown, so it was just fun to pull out those old tapes and put them up. But then to find that, Michelle and Dago cello song at the end of the film, you know, I didn't have a song there, and we were almost finished editing, and then that album Bitter came out maybe like 2 weeks before we were finished, and we put that song Full of Me up to the picture, and it was like it was written for it. So very, very fortunate about that. The Maxwell track I had actually heard him sing that live, and I said to myself, while I was writing, I've got to have that in the film. So again, it's just finding those great songs that move you and can elevate the material.
And you tweeted the other day that you're really loving the new Adele song.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with that song.
And I just thought it was interesting because her new music video was directed by Xavier Dolan, who's a film director. And I wondered if you would ever think about directing music videos. Maybe if Adele asked you.
Is she here? No, and also starred Tristan, who
Tristan
I
Wilde,
love and worked with before. Yeah, I mean, music videos, when they're done right, are a really beautiful medium, and I love when they tell stories like that one does, and why, I mean, that song is just so transcendent, and the visuals just elevate it, so it would be very cool to do a music video.
But going back to Maxwell, obviously that song plays in the film's sex scene, which is really so sweet when you watch it again, and it's a really lovely, intimate scene. And we were talking earlier about how when women shoot sex scenes, they're different to how when men shoot them. So I wondered if you were able to share some more thoughts on that, and how you approach love scenes in your films.
And also, in general, I'm not saying in every case, but I do feel that women, when we shoot love scenes, focus on the faces more so than the nudity. And that was really important. Well, one, Sanaa wasn't going to do nudity anyway. But I've always found that when you're focusing on the faces, that's what's sexy to me. And I know if I'm watching a sex scene or a love scene and the actor's nude, that's all I'm thinking about is, oh, the actor's, you know, agreed, or she's probably nervous, or she's probably uncomfortable, and it takes me out of it. So I love to focus on the faces because I also think that's where the emotion is. The interesting about the Love and Basketball scene was two things. One, when I first shot it, that was the only note I got from the studio. The studio was great, but the only note I got back is that she wasn't enjoying it enough. And it's coming from men. And I had to, you know, say diplomatically that the first time is not that great. And I was just being real with what would happen. But I still just shot some extra footage, and I'm actually happy because there were a couple shots that ended up in there that I got the second time around. But I didn't tell that to Sanaa because, you know, I wouldn't tell that to my actor. And then that scene also got me an R. And I was really shocked by that because there's no nudity in it at all. But the MPA, we went back 3 times, and they kept saying, it just feels too real.
As if that's a bad thing.
I know, and that you could tell the moment of penetration is what they kept saying. But at the same time, that movie Meet Joe Black came out, and that was showed Brad Pitt's first time. And you see the moment there, and so we argued that, why are you saying it's okay to show on the male side, but this film you're giving an R to, and they couldn't answer, but I finally had to shave a couple more, shots thrust out of it. And, you know, in the moment you feel like you're totally compromising your vision and I'm ruining my film, but at the end of the day, it was more important for me that young women could see it as well, so the PG-13 was important. And now I look and I don't know what I was so crushed about, because I think, you still get the point across, and it was really only 2 shots.
Yeah, and teenagers could sneak in anyway. Love and Basketball is as much a love story as it is a story about Monica and about her ambition and her drive. And I read something that you wrote recently in Lena Dunham's newsletter, and it was, for those of you who haven't read it, Gina wrote a really great essay about what sports meant to her as a teenager and growing up. And I wondered if you could tell me 2 things. One, how did you end up writing something for Lena Dunham's newsletter? And 2, how did you translate your own experience of sports into the film?
Well, the cool thing was that Lena saw Beyond the Lights, and she says it's her favorite film. So that was kind of amazing, and reached out and asked if I'd write something for a new newsletter, and the topic was wide open. And for me, I think absolutely the person I am today and the director I am today is because of sports. Grew up playing ball and running track at UCLA, and what sports teaches you, especially girls, is just to go for it, that competition is good, that ego is good, that leave everything on the floor, and that's absolutely what you need, especially as a woman in this industry. So it's absolutely helped. And I really wanted to put that into a character on screen. There's a stereotype about female athletes and who they are and what they're like, that I wanted to knock back as well, and show that you can love sports, you can be tough, but you can also be feminine, and that you can fall in love, and that you can have it all. And that really, at the end of the day, was what I wanted to put out there, that for her it was being able to play ball and be in love, and for me, just putting out the message that women, you can have a career and you can have family, and you shouldn't apologize for that.
And I think that's one of the things that I just love about it, and I love about the ending as well, that she really does get to have it all, and it's so rare that you get to have both sides of the story. And yeah, it just makes me emotional thinking about it.
So in terms of preparation, writing something that you're going to direct is a great way to prepare, because as you're writing, you're seeing the movie in your head. And so every day that I'm sitting down and thinking about a scene, I'm just picturing it, and that's directing. And when I'm writing it, I'm starting to write camera angles, and I'm seeing, how the actor's going to act, and I'm acting things out. So I feel like by the time I get to set, I've seen the movie in my head 100 times. And the beautiful thing is then to cast it, and find a cast that elevates your material and shows you things that you didn't even see before. So, the first film, it's scary. You're going in, you have a crew, they're looking at you to, does this chick know what she's doing? And you have to go in there tight. I storyboard my first 3 days to make sure that I'm gonna get everything done, because that really sets the tone both with the crew and with the studio, that they know you're gonna come in on time, you're not gonna overshoot. So that's a big deal. You have to, but you just have to prepare. You get about 8 weeks for pre-production, and preparation is absolutely everything. Casting is everything. They say with directors, the talent is in your choices, and you've got to cast correctly. casting Love and Basketball. Going in, I knew I was it had to be an athlete. I was not gonna go with an actor, and I was not gonna fake it. And I could not find Monica. And Sanaa did a table read of it, and I said, she could do the table read, but she'll never be in it. But she was so good in the table read, so I feel like I was chasing her performance and trying to find it. But again, for me, when I see females playing sports in movies and TV, if it doesn't look real, then I feel it just sets us back. So, I had Sanaa. There was something about her and her chemistry with Omar. I didn't know at the time that they were dating, but their chemistry.
Were they really?
They were, and also the two little kids in there started dating after the movie. But their chemistry was insane. But she had never picked up a ball in her life. So finally, I hired a basketball trainer, one of the coaches at UCLA, to train Sanaa. And then there was a ball player that was also in the running, and I got her an acting coach. And so for 3 months, these two were working on, this opposite track. And I could not make up my mind still. And finally, Sanaa's dad, who's a director, also, and a friend of mine just called and said, "You're being abusive, and you need to make a decision." But for me, it was like, this is my first film. It's got to be right. I need the right cast. And finally, I had to say to myself, what is this? Is it a love story or is it a basketball film? And I realized it was a love story first, and that, you could fake a jump shot, but you can't fake a close-up. And so decided to go with the actor, and thank God, because Sanaa was insane, and the amount of work that she did. I hired a basketball double for her, but I only had to use it in one shot in the whole movie, which is still stunning to this day. Sanaa hates basketball and hasn't picked up a ball since. But I think that she won't say it. But that 3 months of training without any guarantee of a part, she was able to use that. I didn't do it on purpose, but she was able to use that having to fight, having to prove herself, really helped her with the character Monica. So I would say at the end of the day, the casting is by far the biggest thing a director needs to figure out. And it was the same, with Beyond the Lights and hiring Gugu as opposed to a singer, even though Gugu sang in the movie. And then the second thing, I think the biggest thing that I learned is working with actors and getting better at that. It's such an emotional relationship, and trust is everything. And I told the story in the DVD, but it is I learned two incredible lessons. One from Alfre Woodard, who on the first day of rehearsal, and again, I was freaked out because it's Alfre Woodard, and I've never directed, and I didn't know how am I supposed to talk to her or tell her how to do anything. And so she rehearsed the scene, and it wasn't very good, but I said, "Oh, that was great." And she looked at me and she said, "Okay, now I can never trust you." And I was crushed, but it was the perfect thing to say because it was true. I am her conscience and her eyes and her ears of whether she's good or not. So the actors have to trust you, and you have to be honest. And then the other big one was in the scene in the kitchen between Alfre and Sanaa when Alfre slaps her. We did it a couple times, and she was fake slapping her, just not hitting her face, and it just looked fake. And Alfre came to me outside of Sanaa's earshot and said, "Do you really want me to hit her?" And me, the director, I really did. But I realized that Sanaa would never be able to trust me. So I reluctantly said, no, you can't do that. So the next take, Alfre slapped her on the leg, and Sanaa started laughing in the middle of the scene. So then we do it again, and I'm watching the scene, and suddenly Alfre just hauls off and cracks her across the face. And the look on Sanaa's face, which is what I wanted, which is, when you're grown, if your mother's ever slapped you, like you become a little girl again. And I almost said cut because I was so shocked that it happened. But then Sanaa just broke, and it's in the movie. And they finished the scene, and then I said cut, and then Sanaa just started bawling, and Alfred started bawling, and so I cleared the set and let them hug it out and do an actor moment. But then after Sanaa came to me, and she said, "Did you tell her to slap me?" But I was able to say no and preserve our relationship. But that was the other big thing. So trust between actor and directors is everything. Foremost, I wrote the script, and Soul Food had just come out and done well, so I thought that we would have a good chance. But every studio turned it down. I kept getting the note that it was too soft. I didn't really know what to do about that, so I was stuck. But I was very fortunate that the Sundance Labs, and if anybody's a writer, director, you've got to apply to Sundance. It's an incredible program. They heard about the script and invited me to join, and what they did is you go and you spend a week with great writers, and they give you thoughts on it, and then they put on a reading of it, and that's where Spike Lee's company saw it, so that's really what got it to New Line. I actually talk about it in the Lenny letter that you referenced. To walk into a room and try and tell somebody that you need $10 million, it really is like, why are you gonna give me this money? So you have to project an image that they have to believe you know what you're doing. And the only thing, I'd gone to film school, so that gave me confidence, and that gave them confidence. But the only other thing I had was a school break special that I shot. I don't know if they have those out here, but it's like an hour show for teenagers, and it's some lesson, like pregnancy or drugs. So it wasn't, something that said I could do a feature, but I really did believe in myself, and I really then had to bring that swagger into the room. And I was freaked out, but they loved the script, and at the end of the day, the script, if they love it enough, you attach yourself to direct. And then they have to give it to you, and they have to trust you. And I will say, in Hollywood, I don't know how it is here, but Hollywood is enamored with first-time directors because they're always trying to find that next one. So it's actually, if you've written the script, it's pretty easy for yourself to attach yourself and say, I'm the only one that can do this. It's honestly harder to get that second film made if your first one doesn't do well. So if you are a writer, I would say absolutely write a script and attach yourself. And then there's, like I said, Sundance is a great program, and Film Independent has the same kind of program as well. And it's the best way really to get your stuff seen and get made if you can't go the studio route initially. We haven't started shooting yet, and it's going to be it's a 10-hour special event, so it won't be an ongoing series. But I will say, again, during Love and Basketball, she hated me during it because of the whole process, and I was so specific. But coming out of it, she realized it was just because I was so passionate about it and wanted to get it right, and now we're great friends. So, but she's not that girl who got her first acting gig. She's done a couple of movies. She's got more swagger. So, now we argue a little bit more. But the thing I love about her so much is, one, her craft. She's got incredible craft, and went to Yale School of Drama, and that's exciting for me as a director. She also, we're trying to say something with this piece, and the fact that she's coming. She doesn't do TV, but what we're trying to say and what we're trying to change is, this epidemic of shootings of black men by law enforcement. We're trying to do something, and so she's come aboard because she believes in the vision as well. So, we're excited about working together. I think she's going to make my writing better, and I think I make her better. She'll disagree with that, but I think so.
She's not here to disagree, so. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but Gina will be back after after Beyond the Lights for another Q&A with Gugu, and Ryan Johnson will be the chair, so look forward to that and stick around for it if you can. But if you could just join me in thanking Gina.
Well, thank you all.